Obrigada. Desculpem que minha câmera não.
Thank you. My camera is not working. My apologies for that. I have two questions, Itamar and Johnny, for both of you, regarding the names of the characters or how they were christened. Whenever I read Bibiana, the first reference that comes to mind is Érico Veríssimo, O Tempo e o Vento. But not anymore. Or it's split between the two books. And I wanted to know if in choosing these names, is there any reference to the origin of the names or some specific story? Are you drawing any connections with these names? And to Johnny, how do you work with that when you translate? Does that cause any type of question? Should I preserve the meaning, or am I just going to maintain the name as is? So Zeca Chapéu Grande is an example. Salustiana, which can be maybe not regional, but maybe not rare, but is not a very common name in Brazil. So that's my first question about the names. Second question, this question came from what Itamar was saying about insanity, as to Ilse's question. And now when he answered Yasmin and what Johnny also said, it was so beautiful because Itamar said, speaking of madness, well, I'm being careful, he said. I don't want to say what I think this is. So, and being careful, is it precisely to preserve what you and Johnny mentioned to Yasmin, which is the experience, the individual experience of each person reading, keeping this open, this diversity of interpretations and of experiences, so that each person, it was so beautiful what Johnny said, so that, every person, when there's something that you considered real is shaken, you get closer to the real that is not your reality. And these answers actually rose more questions in my mind. Thank you very much. Well, Marilia, since I went to work in the field many years ago in the countryside, almost 20 years ago, I like to observe things. Something that drew my attention were names. Maybe in the city, there's an influence of pop culture, television, television is quite a strong influence in choosing names. On the other hand, in the field or in the countryside, and among the people I was working with at the time, it drew my attention. Bibiana is not a common name, but it's not an odd name in the countryside. Belonesia is a rare name. But what led me to pick these two names, it's more literary, maybe, or more artistic. I was thinking of the power of these characters. I knew Érico Verissimo's Bibiana, O Tempo e o Vento. It's a character that I admire. The story of Ana Terra, Rodrigo Cambará, Bibiana, Maria Valéria. This is an author that I read and it was important to me, Érico Verissimo. But I chose these names thinking maybe of the impact or effect that this name could have in the characters. And I was reminded, Gabriela, of Memorial do Convento. From José Saramago. There are the characters, wonderful characters, special characters. And one of the characters, she's the protagonist. Limunda is her name. And it's such a strong and different name. You don't find it elsewhere. If you understand of literature and you say Blimunda, you don't even have to say the name of the book. Who wrote it? The name has the story in itself. And in English, the book is called Baltazar and Blimunda. It has Saramago's text. And I found this name, Belonesia, and I said, she's going to be called Belonesia because it's the name that I didn't see, not in literary books at least. So she has a mark, just like Bilimunda. That's the mark she carries. Whereas Bibiana had a connection with Belonesia, I think. And Bibiana, there are many Bibianas, but there's one special Bibiana in the state of Bahia, which was a priestess. They say to this day that she was the greatest Yalorixá of all times, the most important one, the dearest one. Mãe Senhora was her name. And Mãe Senhora, her name was Maria Bibiana do Espírito Santo. And when I thought of Belonesia, immediately Bibiana came to mind. And since this story has a connection with this duality context, these two sisters, they are always looking at each other as if in a mirror. Nothing better than names that carry the same same syllables or the same number of syllables, and they start with the same letter, because the story is constantly in this duality, right? This is not new. It has been around in literature for many years, but somehow that's why these names were chosen and not for any other reason. I don't know if Johnny knew that.